Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready?
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Nice to see everybody here, back again for another episode. It's been, a few days anyway since my last video. And this is Sunday, the day before Labor Day tomorrow. And so a lot of people are getting 3 days off this weekend, which is nice. So we have that going on. Plus, notice the days are getting shorter because, like I said, this Earth is tilting away from the sun, at least the northern hemisphere is. And this week, starting tomorrow, I think they said we're supposed to get some hot and humid weather coming our way. A little late. They say August is the hottest month of the year. This year it wasn't hot at all. But believe it or not, it was very, very mild. We got a lot of rain, wet. We had humidity, but we didn't have the heat to match it. So, we didn't really have a very hot August this year. But it looks like the heat and humidity are going to come this month. And so maybe that's another one of those twists in the weather pattern, either from climate change or El Nino or both, So I don't know. But anyway, that's what they're predicting for this week coming. So if we're getting hot and humid weather, I'm hoping we'll get some sun to go along with it, because that would make up for a summer that we didn't really get so far. We did have some nice days. Don't get me wrong. We did have some nice days this summer. But it was a very mild summer. And we did have a lot of wet, rainy days. So I'm hoping maybe that this week will be maybe a bit more of what we didn't get. So also this month I gotta go around and find somebody that'll pass my fucking old truck for inspection. The damn thing is from 2006. Not a thing wrong with the engine. I gotta tell you, I've got 99,000 miles on it, and that engine it's all original. Not a thing ever went wrong with it. Very damn good truck, but I don't go anywhere with it. I don't take it on long trips if I don't have to, because I'm not that kind of a traveler. I kind of stick close to home and do my errands and things like that. But I don't think I would really need a pickup, but I had to have it in order to make the move to a new apartment and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's good to have when you want to try to move things around. But the next vehicle I get is going to be something a whole lot more environmentally friendly than what I've been driving. I think I really should try and do that, because the gas is going, it's like $3.78, $3.79 a gallon right now here. That's high for us. I'm sure it's higher elsewhere, but right now that's a lot. And like I said, I don't drive very far, and so I can go a whole week on half a tank of gas with my truck, because that's as much driving as I do. If I have to go anywhere, like say to Holton or Presque Isle or Augusta or Portland, then I'm going to need like maybe about $70 and it's just for the gas going there and back. So that's a big chunk there, But anyway, I was listening to a video about millennials versus boomers kind of thing. And the point of the video was to say, are millennials lazier? Are they, lazy people because they're picky about what kind of jobs they get, or they don't want to work the hours that the boomers had to work in order to make it. And so, it's this comparison thing that I was watching. And, when I was done watching it, I put it aside and I was like thinking about it a little, and I went a few days thinking about it. And I'm thinking, I talked to a guy who recently left his job, and he's going to New Jersey to a music school for college, and I don't remember the name of the college he was going to, but it's a music school. And he's going there, and he's going to spend 2-3 years studying music. And I never heard the guy play anything, but if he's going to college there to do this, then obviously he must feel like he's talented enough to do it. Plus, it seems like he likes doing this. So I'm thinking, that's good. Somebody in this day and age can actually pursue something that they like and be able to do it. Another person I met was valedictorian in her high school graduation this year, and she's going to be a editor at a publishing outfit somewhere in Boston. Okay, well that's where she wants to be, but she's got to go to college first. And right now she's at the University of Maine studying there. At the same time, she's sharing an apartment with a couple other people. It's a 1-bedroom, and it's like $700 a month here, and so they're all working and they're all helping to pay the rent. And it's in Orono, and she's at one of the apartments that are off the campus. I don't know if you call that off the campus, but it's right next to it. Okay, it's over there, and she's staying there, and she wants to be an English major. She's very smart, very smart. I mean, to look at her, you wouldn't think she'd be into something like that, but clearly she's got it, because I in the writing thing, I kind of asked her some questions, about writing and English and stuff, and I could tell she's on the spot, with it. So I know, but again, someone pursuing their interest, which is, like I said, a rarity these days, because it's so hard to get into a college, and it's so expensive. And she says she got a lot of scholarships because she's valedictorian, right? And so that's going to help. I'm not going to say it's going to give her 100% help, but it's going to help a lot for her. And so at the end, she wants to end up in Boston. Okay. I said, why not New York? She says, oh, that's too big a city for me. And I kind of laughed. I said, Boston can be a big city too. It's a big pain in the ass as far as I'm concerned, because I'm from Boston. I've been down there many a times. I had an uncle lived down that way in Leominster, which isn't that far from Boston. And that city can act like a big town, and get right in your face. But anyway, that's where she wants to go, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. So, I'm sitting here, soaking all this up, this young generation. And I don't even know if you would consider that millennial, okay? If they're, these kids that just graduated. I don't know if that's millennial or not. I don't know. Anyway, it's just, they're younger. And so in the article, or the video rather, not the article, but the video that I watched, and it was talking about how the young people today in their 20s and 30s are so, seem flighty, and they're not, sure what they want. I'm looking at that in a different way, okay? I look at it in a different way. I say, yeah, maybe these people, during the pandemic, I think, is kind of what triggered it. But I think what it is a lot of these people watched their parents as they grew up struggle all the time. always trying to get something, constantly in credit card debt. And, maybe a lot told no when their kids asked if they could have something, okay? And it took a while, as the kids mature as to why it was like that, why the parents couldn't always get them what they wanted. You see, I didn't have that when I grew up because my parents were making a pretty good income. Not rich, but, enough, okay? And my mother pretty much got us what we wanted when I was growing up. So you could say, yeah, we were spoiled compared to, kids today and stuff like that. We got a lot. And, the result of that is what's behind me there. Okay? That's what happens, okay? It rubs off on you. And so your kids learn to do the same damn thing and when they get older. So these kids grew up, and they grew up in harsher times. School shootings, shooter drills in school, parents being sent off to war. They had it kind of rough. And their parents had it rough because, places didn't want to fucking pay anything. They were looking for ways to cut benefits from the workers, And I think these kids kind of, in some way, learned something without really thinking about it, about how companies and jobs today really don't give two shits about their workers, okay? And that every time their parents tried to get something like extra health care and they couldn't get it from their job and they had to, try to petition or get into politics to try to force legislation, things that should have been given to them because at one time these companies did, but realized that in order for them to make more money for their stockholders, they had to cut overhead or cut services and stuff like that, and cut the how much money they were going to pay. So minimum wage just got more minimum, as the inflation goes up. Minimum wage didn't go up. And so, these kids feel like, well, why should anybody bust their ass for a fucking company that's their interest is not in you or their workers, but in their fucking stockholders and what they and making money for their company. Okay, you saw how many, like Enron, you see Enron, what happened in the greed and all that overtook that company and destroyed it. We see that all the time happening. And, we hear these horror stories about, companies rising and falling all over, in Wall Street. And the people that run away with the profits before it happens are always the ones who don't need the money. It's always the employees that suffer the fucking consequences. Why should anybody today, starting off on their own, like those kids I told you about, why should those fucking people today give two shits about these companies because they can't find anybody to work for them? That's kind of like, what I was been thinking. It's like, these places have not earned the respect of the public that they should have. Okay, there was a time when you said I work at this place, then everybody's, oh, you're getting good money there, like the mill in Old Town was one of them places way back before I was even around. If you got a job at the mill, people thought you had money, you had something. Okay, but nowadays, if you tell them, oh, I work at this mill or something, they're going to say, oh, Christ, they're running your ass ragged. You know what I'm saying? The opinion of the place all of a sudden gets negative, where before it was looked at positive. But hard work didn't get these people anywhere working at this place. Even though they got money, they spent a lot of fucking hours a week at this job, which meant they had no personal life. They came home 7 hours, and that 7 hours was to sleep, and then they'd take off for work the next day, working 80 hours a week. My grandmother has worked there in her, before I was born. She started working early in life, making a lot of money, but they worked her ass hard, okay? And women back in those days will work like slaves in these fucking mills, okay? And it was hot in there. They had no air conditioning in that paper mill. Okay, and my father, remember when he was working there for a little bit, how some of the women would pass out on the line because of the heat. And you think those bastards that worked run that place gave two shits about them? No. They didn't change that. No air conditioning. They kept it running full. And he said they would come down sometimes and turn up the fucking speed of the damn belt on the thing, just to make them work harder, Oh, because we got a quota to meet, and so they were treating these people like shit. Now, you ain't going to find any kid today who's going to work in a place like that and be treated like dirt, okay? Not like that. No way. No fucking way. And I say that's good, because you know what's happened when more people think like that makes the companies harder to be able to find somebody to work. That means they got to sweeten the pot, right? In order to entice these people to come and get their job, which means if they went and got the job right off the bat and then asked for the stuff later, they never would have got it, because, hey, you're already working here, right? But if they need you bad, if these companies need you bad, okay, they will bend over backwards to give you what you want just to get you in there. And the minute they start, dialing it back on your paycheck and all that, and you quit, because a lot of these people aren't afraid to quit. If you start doing stuff, a lot of these young people, they say goodbye. Walmart's finding that out when they hire new people. These young people, they won't stick. If they find like you're not treating them fair, they walk right out. They don't care. So the work forces today are, what I say, smarter, because they won't let the companies, abuse them. All right, they won't let them abuse them. And I think that, even though it's very hard for somebody today to go and buy a house, let's say, and and have all the things that like my parents had and stuff like that, because today the wages is less, the inflation, the cost of living is higher, and houses are higher in price, and all they can afford is a rent. They're not like really upset about that. I mean, they would like to have a house, but they're willing to settle for an apartment if they can get it. Okay, they're willing to settle for that, which means they have more realistic goals in their mind. Okay, they don't, they're not trying to say, well, I want that house and I'm going to get it one way or another, and then they put themselves in the fucking hole. That's the way it was done back when my parents were young and starting up. They were going to get that house, they were going to get that car, whether they needed it or not, whether they could afford it or not. And thanks to Ronald Reagan, who said, oh, go on and get your plastic, your credit card, charge, okay, use your home as a fucking ATM. That's what they were told. Spend way beyond your means. And that's why household debt went through the fucking roof after, during the Reagan era. I mean, people owed more money than they could have possibly ever earned in their lifetime, and that debt carried on and on and on right into the 21st century, which is, why things happened the way they did in 07, 08, when a housing market collapsed and people's homes were being taken away because they couldn't pay the mortgage. I mean, they used their homes for collateral for loans they got. And when the bank says, I'm calling in the loan, they couldn't pay it. And so they went and took the house, Well, I think a lot of kids learned a lot from that. Some of them were probably one of those who had to move out of their house because their parents had mortgaged it right to the gills. Okay, so again, another lesson that they picked up and learned about life in this country, that the American dream may be the ability to be able to go out and buy everything you want and everything, but the American dream doesn't include the fact that you can work your ass off and not have a personal life and buy things you want. What good is it having a nice home, a nice car, and all that other stuff when you're spending 80 or more hours a week to bust your ass trying to earn these things and you never get to enjoy it? What's the point in that? And I think that's what these kids say. They're saying, instead of having these big, lofty expenditure goals in mind, let's be more realistic about what we can do with our money. Okay? Let's try to accept the fact that we can't get this right at this point, but someday we can. Okay? We just have to be more thrifty about our money and our spending, and we have to, be smarter about what we do with that money and where we go to earn it. we have to make sure that every step we take benefits us more than it does somebody else. Say like the banks. Okay, we don't want to make them money. We want to get the money for ourselves, and so we can have a good life. Okay. Too long, people have been playing, Russian roulette. I guess with their money, and unless you got luck behind you or something, you were going to get yourself hung in that game. Which down through the years, a lot of people, they got left behind, because they gamble their way through life trying to make it rich quick, and it blows up in your face, And so I think, like I said, I think the new kids today have a better head on their shoulders than, say, my generation when I was in, school did. Okay, I think my generation, the kids and stuff in my, they grew up having to live through the boomers' time of this, spend stuff, and it kind of made them think that that's the way life is, okay, that's how it works. And then when, we go out and try to do things, and we're doing the same thing, and it's not working because that generation has already put the country in the hole, and and now, we're going through the phase of where all the companies are transitioning out of that fucking way and cutting benefits to workers. We were going through that while the kids from my generation were growing up and watching what was happening to us. Okay, and so they've learned a lot, about that. So experience is a good teacher, and I don't think you could really teach this generation here about the benefits of being smart with your money, unless they had lived through it firsthand and watched their own families struggle with bad money management and stuff like that, and not standing up for themselves at work, because I think a lot of times when I watched my people in my family working at jobs back in the 80s and 90s and stuff, a lot of them just wouldn't speak up. They would always come home and say, oh Christ, I got all these bills, and how am I gonna, they bitch about the money that they're not getting instead of the money they're getting, and instead of trying to take action, as it were, to do something about it, they would just keep letting themselves go to work and get hung by the same problem over and over again, and they're not getting any further ahead. Okay, my mother was always taking out consolidation loans to pay bills off, and right up till the day she died, she had a lot of credit card debt, which didn't get paid because it was all in her name. And so when she passed away, the banks had to eat the fucking money. They couldn't get anything. So they were going after my father, and my father told the bank, I said, I don't know why you're coming after me, because my name ain't on these cards. My wife had those cards. The accounts are under her name, not mine. And then all of a sudden, they just stopped calling after a while, because they realized, we can't legally go after him because that money, that card was under her name. So she died with the bills not getting paid, but what the hell are they going to do, right? So he didn't have to worry about that. And again, it's when you get a lot of people doing the same thing, it impacts the economy as a whole in the country. And it makes times tougher for people, because banks end up with all these losses, and they got to make up for it somehow. And what do? Raise interest rates or something, or some damn thing like that. Well, that impacts everybody, So, like I said, it was a bad cycle. It was a bad way of our country doing business. But at the same time, we were told that was okay, right? The commercials on TV about ways you can squeeze this and get money. We were constantly told how to do things. And if you'd have gone to an economist or even a simple accountant and asked them about it, they would probably give you all kinds of red flags, like why that's not such a good idea. But who would listen? Especially when you need the money for something you want. Okay, so yeah, we had that bad time, and we're paying for it right now. But our kids, thankfully, have learned something about being more smart with that, and being smart with their goals about what they want, and how they can get it, you know, in a realistic way, without, you know, taking a gamble or something on your economic future or things. Okay, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
School is back in session, and Republican lawmakers have been working all summer to make this year the craziest one yet. Say goodbye to boring woke books like Fahrenheit 451. In fact, just burn them. Do the horrors of slavery bum you out? The GOP has you covered. We've refreshed it with a brand new spin.
Being taken as a slave is better than being killed, no? No big deal.
Wow. Time for lunch. Oh, not for you, Jimmy. We're rolling up our sleeves and rolling back free and reduced lunch programs. What a freeloader. Go make varsity. But wait, not until the GOP double checks your genitals to make sure they match with the team. Thanks, Coach. And take an extra 20% off our already low standards with doorbuster deals on bulletproof backpacks. Now available in toddler size.
Now show me how you use your bulletproof backpack.
Come to the Republican Party and go back to school the far right way.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, I got an article here that I want to read to you, and it pertains a little bit to what I was talking about in the last segment. So if you just bear with me, this article comes from the BBC, written by Alex Christian. Was just published, and let's see, the title it says many workers who survive company cuts have the instinct to flee to other jobs, and often do. In an economic environment of widespread layoffs and company downsizing, many employees are holding tight to their positions. Yet, according to some experts, these cuts may create a surprising domino effect, driving some remaining workers to voluntarily quit their jobs. According to a January 2023 study of nearly 1 million workers at 1,620 stores of a U.S.-based retail chain conducted over a 22-month period, found that quits following company-wide layoffs are 10 times more likely than after voluntary quits. And while post-layoff resignations spiked among all employees, the trend was more pronounced among high-performing workers, rising from around 1.5% to 2% in the 6 months after job cuts were announced. That's a 75% spike. Experts say they have indeed seen similar trends play out across sectors. Many workers survive a headcount reduction to find that the psychological blow from layoffs in general can rock confidence and trust. Often, a crisis of faith in their employers under resourcing and industry instability means workers jump companies as they push them out. Quote, we see that people don't tend to wait for job losses to kick in before they go. Turnover increases immediately after layoffs are first announced, unquote, says Seema Zajihandi, assistant professor at the University of British Columbia's Sauder School of Business based in Vancouver. Quote, the cue seems to be, I don't have time here, I need to run, unquote. In general, turnover is often contagious. Sajidiniani says one employee resignation can swiftly follow another, as colleagues often copy behaviors unlike voluntary quits. However, layoffs create a sense of urgency. A wave of widespread job cuts can convince unaffected workers that their role is next to be axed. Quote, in announcing redundancies, the signal is that the organization is no longer a safe place to work, unquote, says Sajiati. Quote, employees see the news or even their colleagues packing up their belongings and leaving, and it feels like an emergency. It's emotional, unquote. In many cases, layoffs often shake up workers' loyalty and sense of purpose at an organization. Quote, job security is crucial for someone to be willing to go the extra mile for an employer, unquote, says Zajiani. Quote, ultimately, employment is a transactional relationship. It's a contract between employer and employee. If one party doesn't commit to it, it soon falls apart, unquote. Indeed, layoffs, quote, can sow seeds of doubt for employees, unquote, says Jim Ling, Chief Human Resources Officer at the Society for Human Resources Management, based in Virginia, U.S. Next, employees losing colleagues, friends, and close working relationships in one fell swoop can compound these feelings. Quote, it's the concept of job embeddedness. When people work together, it creates an invisible web of social connections between the co-workers, unquote. Quote, when that's broken apart as a result of layoffs, that creates a psychological impact, unquote. Subsequently, job cuts can leave remaining workers burdened with feelings of remorse, loss, and uncertainty. Practically, workers are also left with the stress of being expected to do more with less. Quote, they may also worry about being under-resourced and left with greater job responsibilities following layoffs. Friends and colleagues go away, but the work doesn't, unquote. As peers face redundancy, one reason the highest performing workers may particularly run to other roles, says Zajiani, is that, quote, departmental cuts often mean that top performers and managers lose their jobs. It sends the signal to high-performing colleagues to seek opportunities and secure employment elsewhere, unquote, especially as they may have better labor markets prospects. This manifests similarly for voluntary quits, she adds, quote, but compared to resignations, the process with layoffs is intensified. They think, I'm not next, I need to save myself, unquote. Of course, not every employee who wants to leave after a round of layoffs can, yet the instinct to go will still be there for many workers, and this means they'll keep an eye out for other opportunities even if they can't leave as urgently as they'd like, especially in sectors that are experiencing wide-scale headcount reductions among many companies. Quote, thinking about leaving after layoffs is an almost inevitable response. They may just not be able to act upon it, unquote, says Zajiani, but, quote, but actually leaving depends entirely on whether there are opportunities in the job market. They'll certainly be on the lookout. So, I guess, you know, what this is, you know, it says that people, you know, keep their antenna up in the air whenever they hear about something bad that's happening or is going to happen. They want to avoid that pitfall by dodging the bullet, as it were, saying, you know, I'm not going to stick around and just hope that I won't lose my job, because they saw what happened to their families before them about sticking around and hoping that their number won't be called up to say goodbye, and it happens, and then they're like stuck without money for so long because they're out looking for a job to, you know, to get money again. They don't want to go through that period of no income. So if they hear anything, or, you know, something about a layoff or something, they're like, okay, I'm getting the fuck out of here, because I'm not going to wait. I'm going to go look for a job right now and find someplace that'll hire me, and then when I get it, I'm out of here. And that's what's going on, okay? So that's a smart thing to do, you know. Why take the risk of being the one that's going to get the slip? You know, if you hear that there's going to be, you know, that means you have to pay attention to the world around you. That means you got to read the news, you got to watch the news, you have to know what's going on at the company you're working for. You know, stay up to date on that stuff. It means you've got to keep yourself in the know in order to avoid these pitfalls. So, and this really works for any job. I mean, really, if you think about it, this isn't just, you know, for high-end job. This is a smart way for any job you have to keep your ears open for anything that might disrupt the status quo in your life. You know, why take the chance of, you know, a job, and then you hear about this guy over here got laid off, that one over there. They won't lay me off. I worked here too long. They won't lay me off. There's no guarantee. Length of time in your job does not guarantee you that you're going to be untouchable. Okay? They've done it already many, many times. Just ask anybody. It doesn't matter if you've been in a job 19 years or something and you're 1 year away from your retirement. That doesn't matter. You're out. If they want you out, you are out. And they don't have to honor a goddamn thing. So, when you hear about something like that, company going through hard times and they're laying off workers, that's a sign that you're going to have to go around and find out what you can get, because you might lose that job. You might lose it, you know. And you know, it's like you know, why ride the Titanic without a lifeboat? You know what I'm saying? Why would you want to do that? Would that be smart? No, of course not. So be smart about the job. Don't take a job and assume that you got it for life. There's no job anymore that's given to anyone for life. In fact, it's very hard to find anybody these days who's worked at the same job for 10 years. People have jumped jobs a lot, you know, in recent years. I mean, when my father was young, people used to work at the same job for, you know, until they retired. You know, no matter what the job was, they work, you know, everybody, you know, and it was the same job, and they retired at that job. That was a normal thing. Today, anybody that does that, you're like, what job was you working at? I mean, and they would probably think there must be something special about you to have stayed there that long. And no, it's because jobs today are, you know, the companies are very unstable, okay? And it's because the CEOs of these jobs are out there playing games with fucking people investing money into their companies. They're trying to make money, and that means 1 minute they're going to open up a building over here and there, the next they're shutting buildings down. Okay, you know what I'm saying? They just, to them, it's a game board, and that's the way they play it. All right? I heard recently here there was what store they're going to go? I'm trying to think now. I think it was Walmart. It might be closing stores or something, or I'm trying to think now which one it was. I heard about store closures in Maine, okay? And I'm thinking it was Walmart, but I'm not sure now which one it was. But it is a store, that there's one here in Bangor, and I think it was Walmart that they're thinking about maybe shutting down some Walmart stores. It means there's going to be some layoffs, okay? At a time when, you know, you got the president on TV talking about how we got more jobs created, and stuff, but at the same time we're also losing jobs in other areas of the country. He's creating jobs for, like, you know, factories, microchip factories and stuff like that, but we're also losing work, you know, from companies out there that have been struggling since through the pandemic, and they're still struggling. And it's the part of the report that you don't hear is how many jobs are still hemorrhaging in this country, even as we're creating more new ones. They always leave that out, okay? They always leave out the number of jobs we lose. They always tell you about the new jobs we get, but they don't tell you about the ones that we lost. So just because you hear about, oh, we got 133 zillion people working, than that weren't before, we also lost, you know, 130 zillion people their jobs. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't really indicate an improvement. We're just hearing a shift, you know, in workers going from one thing to another, okay? But we're not seeing that we're actually getting our head above water, which is why, you know, inflation is still such an issue in this country. Why people are still struggling is because in a lot of places, you know, the jobs they had have gone, and they can't seem to find a good paying job, so they're working, you know, these part-time jobs, 2, 3 sometimes, to make ends meet. But people aren't really getting that further ahead because, you know, the work that was there is gone for those people. Now, how many of those people are going to be able to get into a factory job that makes microchips? Probably not many, unless they, had some kind of background in that. I mean, you can't just hire anybody to do those kind of jobs. So I feel like even Democrats. Okay, look, Democrats will hide stuff from the public too. I mean, it's not just Republicans that are that can do that. Democrats do as well. And right now we're getting close to an election year, so there's going to be a lot of that going on. Okay, I'm not ignorant to suggest that otherwise. Okay, I realize how the game is played, and they're trying to protect Biden. I'm not saying Biden's been a bad president. Okay, it just they want to keep everything good, because as Republicans keep putting bad shit out, the Democrats have to counteract with as much good stuff, even if it isn't 100% true. They got to do something. Okay, and sure, it's good to hear that there are new jobs being made in this country that are going to be good paying jobs. That is good news. Okay, but we got to do something about the jobs that were here. Now they're disappearing, because that's important too. How are we going to keep people working? The ones that have gotten laid off recently, how are we going to get them the jobs back that they work, that they can do? What kind of incentive will there be to create new jobs for them? And that's kind of that's one of the issues there that that really gives you pause. When you hear about reports from Wall Street and on the news, when they talk about all this good stuff. Okay, it gives you a lot to be hopeful about, but they don't really tell you everything, in these things. But with this article here, what I'm seeing is that there's a lot of caution out there amongst the workers to avoid pitfalls, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I think if more people had done that in the past, a lot of problems might have been avoided for folks financially, where they wouldn't have to dig into their savings as quickly. Because people used to have savings in those days. They had a savings account and they had some money in it. But they say today the trend is that people are just living hand to mouth. They don't have money to put away in a savings. They need every single fucking dime that they get, and they got to use it. They don't have any leftover money to put into fucking savings. That's not good for any time, because look, let's say they shut the government down, which could still happen, right? How long do you think people are going to go without a functioning government if they got no savings to fall back on to, compensate for, like people that would have these government jobs? How long do you think they're going to be able to last without that? It's really sad when you think about it that, we're like one paycheck away from anarchy in this country. And the Republicans keep trying to push us into that scenario by taking and cutting away things and screwing around with the economy like they do. And their mission is to destroy the country. That is plainly clear. Okay, whatever they say, they're not doing that. They're lying. Okay, they don't like this country. They never did. They'd rather it be just like England all over again, where they have the kings and queens running the world, and what I'm saying? That's what they want. Okay, that way nobody gets a voice, nobody can select the leaders, only the elites can do that, and they want them to control the country. Okay, so goodbye democracy, and that's what they want. Okay, greed is what motivated that, and it's what they're going to cling to for however long they need to cling to it to get what they want. And like I said, what'll slow that down is a population that's smarter with their money and more wise about how they navigate through life, which means they have to be aware of what's going on around them. They have to be aware of what's happening in their company, in their job, and that means they have to just be able to make smart choices. Okay, don't screw around, playing games with banks and stuff like that. Because whenever you make a deal with a banker, you better check your wallet when you walk out. Because I tell you, they got plans within plans that you don't even know about when you sign on these lines here for a loan or something like that. You know, they know you don't have time to sit there and read that page for page, so they slip things in there that you ain't gonna know about, okay? Never trust that. Okay, so I'll leave you all to your upcoming week here, and please subscribe and comment. And I hope everybody keeps their ears open to COVID-19 because it's still lurking around there. They said salmonella is broken out because of, I don't know, something going on there. Something to do, I don't, I remember I read an article, but I can't remember how it got started, but salmonella is on the rise there someplace. And so just be careful about what you're eating. You know, clean off the countertops and stuff like that. Lysol or whatever. You know, wash your hands when you're handling food. Make sure the food is fresh and not old. Sometimes that's hard because the damn grocery stores will deceive you on when things are have expired. You know, they like to put red dye in the meat and stuff, you know, to make it look fresh, but it ain't. I don't know. Lying is a way of life these days, and we try to teach our kids not to lie, but Christ. So yeah, and treat each other nice, okay? I know these days it's hard to do that, especially when we get closer to political elections. People like to fight and argue more. So avoid those topics and religious topics in person. If you have to talk about those things, you know, it's best to do it online where you can't physically be in front of each other. Or somebody be tempted to take a swing at you, you know, because those are hotbed topics. So I will talk to you again another time, and stay safe out there.